Some prayer.
Yes. Oh, gracious Father, we thank you once again for allowing us to come and assemble in building your kingdom, Father. We thank you for everyone who's present here today. We just want to give you thanks for our whole entire county, all our workers, the first responders, all the leaders, and we pray that you put upon them to do the right thing for the people. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Now, if you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Todd, would you take the roll call, please?
Councilman Reese.
Here.
Councilwoman Likens.
Here.
Councilman Alexander.
Here.
Councilman Steele.
Here.
Councilman Emery.
Here.
Councilman Vaughn.
Present.
President Gale.
Here. Now, would there be a motion to approve the minutes from the April 12, 2022 meeting?
Make a motion.
Motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn,
Second.
second by Councilman Alexander. Any
Question.
discussion? Yes, sir.
I got a question about this agenda.
Could we continue with the approval of the minutes since a motion was made on that? And then
Okay,
the
your
next would
minutes.
be the agenda, so we can
Right.
get to you then?
That'd be fine.
Okay. Any other discussion on the minutes from April 12th? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, next would be approval of the agenda. Why don't we go ahead and have a motion, and then that would open for discussion, and Councilman Reese, we can,
I would move that we present or approve the agenda as presented with the exception of adding the public safety, jail items that were added, transfers only.
Second.
we have a motion by Councilman Steele, a second by Councilman Emery. Councilman Reese, then did you have some conversation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excuse me. I'm sorry for being late. I got two jobs. So anyway, make a long story short real quick. I was questioning here, Mr. President. I see on the agenda we have about the administration. Bring up about that position, question about that position again. I want to be very careful what I say because I'm very calm. I'm very concerned if we bring that up again, because of all my times I've been on council, I've never seen that happen. And I don't want to open up a can of worms for at least us, as well as the ones to follow us, because if we do this, I think we will allow others to come back once you vote something down to no. You allow others, you open up a can of worms. I don't see how you can give them a reason why you wouldn't listen to it or revote it if you allow this. So I think we better be very careful and really consider what we're doing here, because this particular topic was brought up in March, I believe.
Yeah, it was March.
March, voted down, I should say. Then we miss April, but we come into May and bring it up again. Like I said, on my time being on council, I've never seen this before. So we better be very careful in how we do this. I'm just giving fair warning to the council. And Emery, you know what I'm saying. You got to be careful, because you can open up a can of worms that if it may be easy for you to make a decision, but we may get in a situation where this could really hurt the taxpayer down the road. So I think we better be very careful with that.
When this discussion happened before, when it was brought to the council before, Councilman Alexander, do you remember, was it a motion to table?
There was a motion to table, and that motion passed.
Okay, so this was an issue that was tabled at that meeting.
No, it wasn't not tabled, voted down.
Okay,
I don't
was
think
it?
it was.
Okay, are you?
We
They got voted
talked
down,
about
sir.
it, and in all the fuss,
Okay.
just
It
did
was-
not
I
pass.
remember there was a lot of
Yeah,
conversation.
we voted
I
and it
thought I
voted
remembered.
down.
Okay.
We voted down. So I'm just saying, be careful, guys, because this could get very tricky down the road. It could get very tricky. Like I say, maybe not for us because you got your numbers in place, but we might get in a situation where this might not be good for taxpayers. Because I've never seen this before. Emery, have you ever seen this done before? Where we voted down something like this and brought it back?
Oh, no, I'm not.
Okay.
The only thing I can add to this is that I was told that there was more information that would be presented tonight.
Well,
that
I'd like
wasn't
to know what
available
kind of
before.
information be presented to change it, but that'd be very interesting to hear that. I hope it's enough to change it, because I'm really concerned about this, because, again, This is unprecedented. Really, it really is now. And you may not see it. Right now it's kind of like we got this particular issue, and it's kind of like it's just pretty up on black and white on this paper. But you might be opening up something that could really jeopardize this county. You really are. I've never seen this before. And I called others real quick before I got here and questioned the other council members, and they said they'd never seen that before. So I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just one. But I thought it'd be brought, I said, well, instead of waiting till we go through this, we probably need to deal with this at the agenda.
Councilman Gale, if I may. Are you done?
Yes, sir, I'm
Councilman
fine. Yes, sir.
To add to Councilman Reese's thing, I mean, some of this stuff, I guess what I'm concerned about is if it was in the budget, at budget time, I probably would be more, but as Councilman Reese said, we're getting into a place where, we just told Olivia to take back her raises and said no to her. We voted down, and I remember you made a statement last year that once we're done voting something down, we're not going to beat a dead horse. And I tried to bring it up, and I respectfully left it alone about the jail project because it was a multi-million-dollar project. And, I agree. I don't think the taxpayers would be happy, and I don't think the county employees would be happy. And I'm going to be open-minded at budget time. And I think we should get practice. That's good practice for taxpayers to, just a practice for taxpayers living within our budget and like everybody else is doing at home. So I think this could make some people want to come back in front of us and try to, say, hey, what about us? And I've heard some grumblings and not that I want to be closed-minded about it, but I think this is a budget time process and we owe it to the taxpayers. But I remember you said about, I really want to talk about that jail, and then I left it alone because you said once we vote it down.
Councilman Vaughn, to be accurate, that was something that was not on the agenda, and so I had asked that you go through the process of getting it on the agenda.
Right, and I tried, and I got denied twice to get on the agenda, but I'm not going to argue. I'm just saying that we're going down an area where we need to really live in our budget, and I'm just afraid there's going to be a backlash. And, after telling Ms. Pratt that she can't have raises, and now we're doing this in 5 months in. So I think we need to reconsider this,
Okay.
putting on the agenda tonight. Because you said that once we vote something down, we're going to leave it alone and kind of not. Remember saying that last year? I mean,
I don't remember using
I think
those
you
words. But anyway, is there any further discussion on the agenda? All right, we do have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Here, I've opposed.
oppose.
Okay, so the motion passes. The agenda is approved. I have no specific comments tonight. Auditor's report, Rick?
Just share a couple of numbers with you and get out of your way here. Just let you know, we're looking at a general fund operating balance right now at 2.1 million. Everyone knows that we collect twice a year for property taxes, getting ready. Well, today was the final day of collection, but and then we'll do a settlement, and that money will be dispersed to all the taxing units, cities, towns, schools, townships, what have you. So we are spending our general fund down in anticipation for that settlement that's going to happen. Also, we have a variety of miscellaneous revenues that come in monthly, lit being one of those. So we're looking at $2.1 million in the general fund today. We're anticipating the cash balance at the end of the year at $9.2 million. If you would recall, and those that you've been on the council for several years, I reiterate that we need $9 to $9.5 million to operate from settlement to settlement. We will be at 9.2 million if everything continues as it is. Keep in mind that it doesn't need to dip below that 9 million. So any actions you take for the next 7-8 months, counting this month, will jeopardize that. So keep in mind that can't dip below that, and got to be careful about that. Rainy day fund today is at 4.7 million. That balance will be at $5,750,000 at year end. Public safety fund currently is setting an $855,000 balance. I think that's all I have. I have some other stuff that'll come up that I'll have to come up and help with, but that's it on the report.
Hey, Rick,
Thank you.
if I got a question real quick. The rainy day fund on the first ARPA funds, I think we voted to put, well, sorry, let me slow down. We voted on the council, put $100,000 a month in, right?
When you passed your budget, that was in the revenue stream.
That was 100, and then how much of the new ARPA money, we didn't use all of it, and then we transferred how much into the new, before the ARPA money came out? There was I believe in 20, there was some money came out, federal money, and how much did we put in the general fund to the public safety from that? Because we didn't use all of it, and we put it in the public safety. Am I correct or wrong?
I don't understand your question.
Reimbursement from wages.
The wage,
Oh,
They
yeah.
changed, yeah.
Yeah, you had reimbursement of, you had federal reimbursement of public safety wages.
right, but how much did we put in the public, or the rainy day fund from that money?
I would have to check. It's not from that money, it's from all the money. It's from over $1 million in investments, interest that Dan has earned through the treasurer's office. It would be pieces of that. It would be tax sale surplus that got moved. I just moved over $110,000 from tax sale surplus from a sale in 2018. It would be any unspent appropriations that we had revenue to back. It's a variety of things, so
And do you have a list of that? Because I like to learn that. Say how much actually
can help
goes
you with
in the
that.
rainy day fund?
I can get you the numbers that's
Okay.
been put in the
Okay.
rainy day
All
fund,
right.
but I'm just saying it's from 100 different places.
I just remember, I thought we voted to put money in the public safety. We put money in the rainy day from that we had left over that had,
You had a balance that was greater than we needed from a variety of revenue sources. In the general fund, it had a large balance. We transferred that over into the rainy day fund, which is how the statute reads, so.
okay.
What all derived that balance? It could be, it's from, if I didn't spend $10 this year, that $10 is not spent revenue that was accounted for. It's from a variety of places, but a portion of that would be the ARP money.
I thought it
Or
was-
not ARP money, but
or-
CARES Act money.
Right, and I thought that was about 2 million that we didn't use, if I was correct. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it comes back into the general fund and then mixed with all other monies, good or bad numbers. And
Right, okay,
and
thank you.
it's the balance of what we didn't need. So.
Thank you. All right. Under old business, we have nothing. New business, there are some out-of-state travel requests. First is the Health Department. Stephanie Mellinger.
Good evening, Steph Mellinger, Health Department. I am requesting out-of-state travel for our preparedness coordinator, who's also the hazmat team leader for the county. This is the International Hazmat Conference in Baltimore, Maryland. A representative from the Health Department's been going for the past 15 years or so, and it is being funded by our CRI grant, the Communities Readiness Initiative grant. Cost about $2,100 for flight, all expenses.
It's coming out of your budget.
It's a grant, yes.
A grant, okay.
Yes.
So moved.
Questions? Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Reese. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, out-of-state travel, IT, Lisa Cannon.
Good evening. We have been able to purchase a backup, our offsite backup servers. They're called Nimbles, and they are produced by HP. HP is doing a conference in Las Vegas, and by us purchasing this, the conference itself is part of the purchase. I have the money to pay for it because COG was able to offset part of my cost in what I had put back to pay for the actual servers. We will have more than enough money to cover that now because of the savings we were able to get from from COG going in with us, partnering with us on that. It'll give us 2 redundant servers. They are very hefty as far as what they do, the things that can be done with them. And my guys, I feel, would benefit from this training. And so with that savings, I have the money in my budget to cover it. We've got some figures together, and it's going to be just under $5,000 with the rooms and the one room, 2 guys sharing a room, and then the airfare.
Okay. Are there any questions?
I just have one quick
And the
question.
meals are included with the conference.
Councilman Amon?
Sorry.
Okay, so what is this, you said it's about servers for the?
This is
IT?
for our backups, the off-site backups, the communication that they have with each other. We do not going into great detail, but we do about a 15, 20-minute snapshot of the pertinent servers on a 24-hour basis. Every 20, 30 minutes, the
Right.
New World servers have a snapshot, so we don't lose a day's work. We
Going to
lose
help
it.
with the email situation? My email's still not up on the profile. I got yelled at by an older lady. Very sweet lady, but she's like,
All right.
but I
Now,
mean,
what we're discussing is
yeah, but
out-of-state
Yeah,
travel for training.
it's been like 9 months.
But
so-
That was fixed before y'all left last time.
I know you told me. I just asking because
That was fixed before I left the meeting, that was brought up in.
She said she couldn't
Right.
still, but I don't want to get off on.
Okay, so is there a motion?
Make a motion that the request be received.
All right,
Second.
motion to approve by Councilman Reese, second by Councilman Vaughn. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Can I ask her a question, though?
I
Yeah, she's up here.
suppose,
It
real
won't take a
quickly,
second.
we're trying to stick to
I
the
know.
agenda, but
On our, getting this out to the public, our internet, are we able to do anything else other than that? Are we able to do like YouTube and all that kind of stuff that you people talk about? Sure we get it out?
It's on the website. What you guys decide to do after that is completely up to you, between you and the attorney.
So take me to the process. So we tape it here, but they decide whether to show it the next day or something? How'd that go?
Well, it is live right now through
Okay,
the
live.
website.
right.
Then Mr. Culp, I believe, the auditor, prior to Rick, purchased an agreement with that company. Mr. Culp uploads those to the website for permanent viewing. I don't know if you've seen, I'm not going to make excuses for anybody, but I don't know if you've seen Todd's desk. But Todd is very busy, so,
That's fine, but.
Yeah.
But that's good to know because it might be something we need to do to deal with that.
Well-
That might be something we could take that money and help, help someone to
That's not
employ
s-
them to do that.
well, that's not something that, we can talk about right here and come up with any answers.
Right.
So
That would
you're
be-
more than you were in the office the other day. You're more than welcome. That door is, most of the time it's unlocked. Just come on in. If they can't, they don't know where I'm at, they'll call me and I'll come meet with you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we have some transfers. Would there be a motion?
Auditor out of
Oh,
state.
I'm sorry, auditor.
Stick with the agenda.
Sorry, thank you.
This is now a state travel request also. It's for the Government Finance Officers Association Annuals Conference. This is actually the first conference we went to, but we think that would be beneficial to our office. If we go to that, we have the money in our budget to do that, so we'd like permission to travel out of state.
I make a motion that we receive the request.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilman Reese, second by Councilman Emery. Any discussion?
Hey, Rick, what exactly you're going to learn or whatever?
I haven't been to the conference.
I mean, what is it? Well, I mean, what are they supposed to be teaching? I mean,
It's Government Finance Officers Association, so all types of government finance. There's seminars, classes, so.
Okay.
Till I sit there, I'm not sure what they're going to say.
It's not coming out of our budget. You got money for it.
Yeah, it's coming out of my budget.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes. Next, we have transfers.
Make a motion to pass as presented.
Okay, we have a motion to pass the transfers by Councilman Emery. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Steele.
Councilman Gale.
Any discussion?
I know we're getting a little better on transfers, but I mean, you know, I'd probably do a happy dance if we do 1 month without transfers. I mean, these ain't emergency. I looked through these for an hour the other day. These ain't emergency transfers. I don't know if there's issues with the communication with budget with the departments. You know, we said that this is one of the best budgets we passed in a long time. We do transfers every month, and these ain't emergency transfers. I've called 2 county council presidents in other counties, and they don't do this. I mean, can we get this? I mean, I know we're getting a little better, and I don't want to do progress, but it's like every month we're doing this.
Yeah. Well, we will be working with department heads as we enter the next budget cycle to start to continue to work on this. Some things, though, that I've noticed, not speaking to any specific items on the list of transfers for tonight, but some things when we've come from budgets that were based on, the previous years, now we're in a year of kind of the emerging from COVID. There are some things that are just a little different this year than what they have been before and would have been very difficult to plan for. So while I'm with you, the more accurate that the budget can be, the fewer transfers we should have. But we also have to be flexible at times towards, reacting to what's going on in the world, so.
It's just been every month, though.
Mr. President? if I
Yes.
may. I just want to say one thing, if I may. I'm actually thankful that we have department heads that are finding funding within their own budget to take care of bills, because if we didn't have these transfers before us, they'd be coming asking us for new money requests.
Right.
So we've
Right.
encouraged these folks for several years now, since I've been on the council, to try to find it within their own budget first before they come and ask for new money. And that's exactly what they're doing. A lot of these are unexpected cost. I know that that's not always the case, but in many cases, there's some unexpected costs that come up, maybe a licensing fee or something that they forgot about, so I mean, those mistakes are going to happen. But these folks, by transferring, are doing this within their own budget, and which they have every right to do. They can transfer that money within their budget. Once we appropriate and approve a budget, they can transfer within their budget. But again, I appreciate them doing that, because that's less new money requests that we're having before us and have to find funding to be able to fund those projects. Thank you.
Okay.
Rick, did you have?
Rick, did you have something?
So on some I don't have any specifics here. I can look through this real quick and tell you, the Planning Commission, they don't have an executive director right now. They have, they're paying somebody for professional services. That transpired this year. That's a no-brainer. It has to be done. The person is getting paid out professional services, not as an executive director, so that's just a wash. It's the same amount of people. It's just paying from a different line, because that person is not an employee. They're providing service. I can't speak for public defender or any of these, but like this transferring, I won't speak for Mr. Kane, but I can see from being in business for 30, 40 years prior to coming to here, I mean, in the job market you're in right now, I would guess he's probably not got enough part-time people and having to pay overtime, so he's taken from part-time to overtime. That's just a industry thing. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but those things happen during the year. This list should not be long, but sometimes we, just like this uniform and office supplies, they might budget for uniforms, but things have to be paid out of a certain line, a $21,000 or a $22,000 by the chart of accounts that we have. So they may be buying pencils, and this is a simplistic example, but they might be needing pencils instead of paper. Well, those might have to be paid out of certain lines, and that's the reason I see some of these are so frivolous but it's important that they do that for future years of budgeting. So I can't speak for them all, but a couple of them it common sense prevails.
Right. Okay. Well, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Next, we have some new money out of miscellaneous funds. Most of these are grant funds or funds intended for a specific purpose. The Surveyor Cornerstone Perpetuation Fund, was there anyone from the Surveyor's office here tonight? Well, okay, you're going to do, yeah, go ahead, Rick. Yeah, I wasn't.
So the Cornerstone Perpetuation Fund for the Surveyor's Office is for cornerstone markers. So they evidently have upped their replacement cornerstone markers, cornerstone work. They have $439,000 in their Cornerstone Perpetuation Fund. That fund is derived from transfers of deeds over time. It can only be used for that. So she's asking, I think, for $15,000, and it's for cornerstone work. It's just not appropriated. She has to appropriate it, spend it. So they're doing more work than they anticipated, and none of that is general fund money.
Right. Okay.
Make a motion to.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emery. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, point of order.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. President, statute requires you to public comment on the money.
Okay.
Oh, that's right.
All together or before each one?
Okay, that's right. Yeah, Ted and I had talked about that from the public safety or the general fund, but if you're saying we have to do that for all of these too, then that's fine. So before we vote on that then, is there anybody from the public that would like to come and speak specific to the Cornerstone Perpetuation Fund? I'm shocked. Okay, seeing none, we do have a motion and a second, so are we free to vote then?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that passes. So on this next section, which will be funds that the sheriff is requesting that we appropriate, before we take the motion in the second and the vote, we'll open up for public comment. So Sheriff Mellinger?
Good evening.
Good evening.
The first one, firearms training, that up until this last year, those funds were deposited in this account to be paid specifically for anything connected to firearms training. When the gun permit fees went away, the state of Indiana surveyed every county sheriff and every chief of police to determine how much money they were bringing in on firearms permits each year. And so they appropriated state funding to make up the difference or come close to making up the difference of monies that we didn't have anymore to purchase ammunition, to pay for firearms certifications, training and equipment. So that's what that money is. That's how the money got there from the state, and it's only used for firearms training.
Okay. Then there's also the Sex Violent Offenders Fund. We want to
Correct.
just,
Do you want me to go down each one?
Yeah, let's just go down each one.
Sex and Violent Offender Fund, each sheriff, 92 sheriffs have the responsibility of every 90 days checking on everyone that's registered as a sex offender or violent offender. We have those lists. Here in this county, we probably have 275 of those registered folks, and we divide that up amongst our deputies. And we actually check on them every 30 days. And you just check to make sure that they are keeping their addresses up to date and that those addresses aren't too close to places they aren't supposed to live. So that money's deposited from the fees that those persons pay to live in your county, basically, and maintain that status. Continuing Education Fund, those monies come from traffic citations. I think law enforcement gets maybe 3 or 4% of the fines. Those, over the years, have been divvied up between courts and different state offices. But that's where that funding comes from, strictly from traffic citations, and we use that for continuing education / training. Sheriff Donation Fund, those funds come from individuals who just think I'm a wonderful guy and they want to donate money to the sheriff's office. Actually, that started back when we first had our first canine back in '92, and we asked the public to donate so we could actually have a canine program. And probably 90% of the money in that fund is people who want to donate to the canine fund. Other people just say, we know that you have to buy things like ballistic vests and all this stuff costs money, and so they just donate it in a miscellaneous status. But most of it goes to pay for the expenses for the canines. Law enforcement aid, those funds come from copies of documents that we make for the public, for attorneys, whenever they ask for those copies. Most of that now is just scanned and emailed, but there are some documents that they want paper copies, and so we charge, I believe it's 10 cents per copy, whatever the state maximum is. Sheriff Photo Fund, when people need copies of photos or videos, as long as they meet the criteria and the case is not continuing under investigation, we make copies and we charge a fee for that. So that's where that money comes from. And that money is used strictly to pay for camera maintenance, contracts that we have for body cams and things like that.
Thank you.
So are you, sorry, can I?
Go ahead if there are any questions for the sheriff.
The fund, basically the funds are drained, or is this?
Every year they build up over the year, and then every year at some point we come to the council and say, okay, it's time to move that money to where we can spend it. So that money doesn't come directly to us, it's deposited in the auditor's office, and we have these dedicated lines. Each one of these items has a dedicated line, but before we can put in a claim for that line, we have to have the money moved there.
So we don't put money in from the general budget?
Not for these. These are dedicated.
So there's no way this could be in your budget, when you planned your budget?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, we do have a motion in a second, but prior to
Oh, we got
going any
public.
further, we do need to open up for public comment.
on,
So,
Henry. Come on, Henry.
is there anyone from the public that would like to speak specific to the funds that the sheriff has brought before us?
I'll just say he is a wonderful guy.
All right, thank you. All right. Well, if that is the case, then we do have a motion by Councilman Emery and a second by Councilman Reese. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sheriff. Next, we have the courts. Jim Hunter?
Yes. The alternative, I'm sorry. Jim Hunter, I'm the court administrator. I apologize, I shouldn't talk without the microphone, because I don't hear very well either. So, first item that we have here, these are also obviously not general fund items. These are, the first line is Alternative Dispute Resolution Fund. The amount of $71,457.22. That's been gathering for a long time because we collect a fee every time certain case types are filed. Divorces with children, divorces with no children, pro se divorces, juvenile paternity, and some MI, which is miscellaneous cases that are civil. So they pay $25. We've been collecting the fee for about 10 years. What we do with it is mediate disputes between divorcing parents. Sometimes if people want to settle a divorce, but they're having trouble, they've got sticking points on finances or whatever, the judge may say, try this, we'll refer you to the ADR fund. So all we're doing here is that's the amount of money that's in the fund. And so we're moving it over so we can spend it. We normally spend about $10,000 or $12,000 a year, or at least that's what's been the last 2 or 3 years because of COVID. It was a little more before that, so I imagine we'll take it down some, but obviously we have a I think most of the funds around the state are like this, where they've got fairly large balance because only a few case types qualify. So the legislature is currently looking at adding some case types, guardianships and some other things, so we can use the money more. So that's the Alternative Dispute Resolution Fund. The Chemical People Task Force is for our problem-solving courts. That is a little grant that they get from a local group called MCASA, and they buy cups for P-tests with that for their drug tests. So that's what the money is for. So those two are the two items. And again, just asking for those to be appropriated. So.
Are there any questions for Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, actually, probably for both, Councilman. Yeah, I guess I'm learning here because it's new to me. This is coming out of the general fund, right?
No, it's not.
No.
It's not, so I guess,
Anytime you see this number and it's not 1,000, it's not.
okay, it's not coming out, so, okay.
Basically, these are funds that are set up to receive money from various different, grants or fees or those types of things with a specific intended purpose for how they should be spent. And just as a matter of oversight, the council simply has to appropriate those. So,
Okay, so, but some of the sheriffs had one, and you said two, I think that
See
doesn't
these
come.
numbers?
Okay, them come out of,
No.
yeah.
If it's 1,000.
okay,
Another easy way to see this is on our agenda, Public Safety Funds, 1170. Anything under that would be from Public Safety. General Fund, 1,000. Anything under that would be from General Fund. Any of these miscellaneous funds typically would all come from special
so they have
funds like
basically money
this,
in
or-
it, they have money in those.
Yeah.
but we just have to kind of like approve, okay.
Yeah,
We can't
Okay,
use it
okay.
without your approval.
right,
Okay.
right. Okay.
Thank you.
So now we will open up, if there's anyone from the public that wants to speak specific to these requests for appropriation. Okay. If not, then
Motion approved.
we have a motion by Councilman Vaughn.
Second.
Second by Councilman Reese. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we get into requests from the Public Safety Fund. First one is the courts. Judge Coaster.
Good evening. The courts are requesting money for what we're going to call a floating court reporter. It's one extra employee that'll be shared by all the courts, and there's really two aspects to that. There's an overriding general principle that all of our court reporters are overworked, so a lot of them, when court goes over, or if there's extra paperwork that they have to do, they are using comp time now instead of overtime. Eventually, that comp time keeps building up and building up and building up, and we're running into issues where they all have too much comp time, so we're making them take time off, but the amount of work stays the same, but we're making them take more time off. So we don't need, each court doesn't need a new court reporter, but if we had one in general, that could fill in when those court reporters that are getting the comp time have to take their time off, then ultimately that saves us from paying overtime and getting the work done. The emergent concern is in Circuit Court 5 with Judge Norick, who that court traditionally has half of the level 6 felonies filed in that court. That's creating a backlog, and the amount of work that those court reporters have is, it's kind of like a highway at rush hour when you have only so many lanes but more cars coming in. And Judge Norick is working to get the overload of cases that he has done. He's working over, but that leads to paperwork and processing those cases once they're disposed of, and there's not enough court reporters there to handle that overload. And that's what's causing his numbers to be higher in the jail than the rest of the courts. So the emergent situation is we're going to use this floating court reporter to go in and take care of the extra work that he has. So opening up another lane of traffic to move his cases through until he gets caught up. So it's kind of a twofold process. We're going to start out the floating court reporter in his court to get him caught up, and then that person will be available for the rest of the courts.
And one,
Is this
and one, Judge, once that you're done with Circuit Court 5, Judge Nark, then you can use that person to help you to get your cases caught up?
Yes. Yeah, it
Okay.
would be that's why we call it a floating court reporter. They'll be cross-trained to work in
Right,
all the
okay.
courts.
Yeah, I like that.
You see as this is a permanent, indefinite position?
Well, the emergent part to get Circuit Court 5 caught up, no. I think once they get caught up, then they'll be able to flow in that court. But all of the courts, there's more work than we have court reporters. So they're accumulating comp time continuously, and that's why we need an extra employee to come in and fill in to do that extra work.
Is a lot of the excess workload due to the fact that courts were shut down, you're trying to get caught up after the COVID, or is it something that you believe is just, even once things are caught up, there's significantly more work?
It's ultimately, there's always going to be more work than what we have right now. The COVID, the extra, and, getting the extra public defender, which is going to help do jury trials, that's causing more work too. So there's going to be more work even as far as that's concerned. So it's twofold. COVID, yes, is creating more work. Plus, there's just in general, even when we're caught up from the COVID, there's still going to be more work than what we have employees.
Have you guys possibly looking at that whole deal, because you came here prior last month and acknowledged, the workload that's on you. And I'm pretty sure that's probably some of your other colleagues, the judges, are going through some of that similar, I would think. But I know we have to duplicate each recorder and all that, the judge and all that. But have you guys looked at how we're going to deal with this, what you guys been faced with the COVID, with the increase in crimes and your backlog? Sooner or later, someone's going to say something.
Well, and that's what we're hoping. We're kind of easing into this. This is a big chunk right here of having that extra employee, because as you guys gave us another judicial officer, which is going to be more cases and more work for the
Right.
court reporters. So,
I thought the same thing. I said, that'd be more on you bringing that in.
right. This will go a long way to helping that.
Well, I support anything to help you guys.
Are there any other questions for the judge?
Make a motion.
If
to
not,
approve?
let's go ahead and open
Oh,
up for
that's
public
right,
comment first. If there's anyone from the public that would like to speak specific to the request made by Judge Coaster. Okay.
Evening, Judge. Ken Delabastide here. Well, I'm just kind of curious. It says here group insurance, $30,100.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look down to the next line, it says group insurance, $14,200. Just wondering why it's so much more.
Rick, do you know what the group insurance cost per full-time employee is?
Could it be for family or?
Nobody knows.
Okay.
That is set at the family rate.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so high.
Okay.
It just depends on whether the employee, they
Right.
may not even take insurance.
Right.
So that's if they
So,
took the family, Mr.
yeah.
If
Trying
they
to
didn't be the
cover
group
highest
insurance
rate
rate,
there is,
okay.
and it's
For
not
them
a
to
lot of
hire, we
times
would need to be
so,
set to cover that, but.
thank you.
Okay, and we opened up for public comment, I believe. No one? Okay, now
Make a motion
Councilman
to
Vaughn made a motion to approve. Councilman Reese seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is David Kane. And just to make sure we are all aware, this new money request is made for the Public Safety Fund and the General Fund, but we would not need both. He's giving us the option of where we would want to pull that from if we chose to do so.
Thank you, Counsel. David Kane, Director of Community Corrections. This is a request both from a safety standpoint and from a liability standpoint. I'm asking Council to approve a new position and new money for a training coordinator I handed out earlier a document that has 41 topic items listed. These are what we consider the most critical of training topics that you're not going to get the full scope of the training by just sitting someone down in front of a computer. These are the type of things that it takes someone to drive it, to either develop it, to deliver it, to ensure that it gets delivered, but something more than simply setting someone down in front of a computer and say, here, this is your training. Now, that's in addition to any other training that we can do in that way. Our organization is such that it is so heavily dependent upon part-time employees that we have such a turnover that the criticality of that training coordinator is even greater, because you just have to keep delivering the training. You have to keep coming back and doing it again. That's just the nature of what we do. But by operating a facility that has two secure facilities, one has 132 beds, the other 146 beds. So the total capacity of 278 persons under supervision, either secure detention or community supervision, there's a lot of liability that goes along with that. In addition to just the need to make sure that our employees are trained and prepared to do that, as well as ensure that they are aware of what they need to do themselves for their responsibility as employees. So that's the nature of our request. It's a position that doesn't or didn't exist before. When I got there, it became apparent that we lacked a central coordination on training. And so that's the reason for this position. I did ask Councilman Vaughn, I know you may ask this, I did ask for it or explored it with state training money. The problem with that is, even if they were to give it to us, we could only use it for positions that were funded by that grant. So half of our workforce wouldn't be able to use the position.
Okay.
And that's why it's necessary to
Appreciate you checking.
ask for this.
Is the training coordinator salary going to be at 26.8? Is this what we're saying, Councilman Gill, that was split between public safety and general?
No, I think, and the auditor may be able to help me with this, but I think this is just to get us through the rest of this year. Mm-hmm. This is to be able to hire the position immediately and get us through the rest of this year, and then we would budget it in the next budget.
So what's the salary for, I guess?
$46,500.
So we're kind of prorating this year, the rest of the year.
Exactly.
Because this was 40-something.
46.5 is what we propose, the annual salary.
Is this all going to help with the drugs coming in and out? Are you going to really focus on, I know that was a concern that we talked about.
It was, and I mean, certainly we're already focused on that.
Right.
But this certainly helps by ensuring that as we have that turnover, that we're always training our folks on the new techniques. I have this thing I call hip pocket training, and it's those just sudden blips of intel that are worth their weight in gold. And so a person like this could develop those. It's 5 minutes worth of training, but it's valuable because it's all that new evolving information that helps you detect the latest techniques they're using.
Right. And this obviously would be something that, having the training would, in a certain sense, help us if there were situations that could turn into lawsuits, other financial
no question
exposure,
about it.
Right? Not having this is quite dangerous.
Exactly. That central point for training records, for training delivery, for able to recreate the training experience. Yes.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
You did mention the last time you were here that you might put on certain training that you might have to pay for someone to come in and do certain training. If that was what percentage you think that might be?
I think that would be pretty low. It would be probably specialized training. But there may be, for example, there may be some supplies that a training deliverer would want us to pay for. As far as contracting for a particular course, I don't anticipate that it would be delivered in this fashion.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Kane? If
So
not,
you're going to be hiring this person, right?
Yes.
You're directly responsible for hiring?
Yes.
Okay. Make a motion to approve?
first, let's open up for public comment.
We're getting there.
It's okay. We're all learning. Is there anyone that would like to speak specific to the request that Mr. Kane is making? Once again,
Make a motion to approve?
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn, second by Councilwoman Likens. Rick, did you have?
Is the motion to approve any general fund or public safety?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
what do you?
Public, yeah, make a, do I need to say that?
At
Make
this
approve
point,
the
could you
public safety
clarify
fund.
his motion?
Yeah, make a motion that we take out a public safety
Okay.
fund.
And then with that clarification,
Second.
Councilwoman Likens would second still. Okay, is there any discussion amongst the council?
I just got one comment. Are you working with Ms. Ramsey, the HR, with this? And
Yes, she is aware of the position we've talked about in advance, yes.
she will be involved in helping with you with this process of hiring?
The hiring, we haven't gone to that step, but I certainly will engage with her, yes.
Let's make sure we do that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Just get organized here. All right, is there any?
Councilman Gout, real
Yeah.
quick. So they're going to be 26. So what we need to prepare and help, and Rick, if you catch what I'm saying, so 26, 8, and if they do the BICA, perf, obviously, if they do the group, the next year, it's going to be 40-something, so we're taking that out of public safety and the court administrator, so this is both coming out of the 855,000, right, Rick? That you said it set out?
Your balance is 855.
Right,
But
and then
the-
minus this that we approved tonight.
To make sure we're on the same page, the balance in the fund does not mean that we have that much money left to appropriate.
Well, how much do we
That
gotta
is,
appropriate?
as,
So how much do we have?
well, as we collect money, but we've appropriated for new positions, some of that money will have to pay
That's right.
those salaries
Year
for those
annually.
new positions throughout the year.
Right, that's right.
So I suppose the question then, Rick, I'm not sure if you can,
Wow.
if you have the number, what additional is there available to appropriate out of public safety?
Based on what you guys decide on this next page, I can tell you what you have left for appropriation the rest of the year. Is that kind of what you're asking?
What do we have
Yeah,
now?
that's,
But with the motion that's been made to take this expense out of public safety, we should still have enough available to cover this from public safety.
You're getting to the limit.
Right, we're getting close, yeah.
Can I ask what figures are you working with? What numbers are you working with?
When that new public safety, when that public safety increase was passed, it was gonna generate about $3 million, if I'm not mistaken. $1.5 million of that has to go for the jail, to cover the bonds at 125%. So you have the jail, you have the.
Yeah, you got to go there.
Yeah, why don't you go to the mic just for the record?
So you have the jail tax, which was going to generate about 5.3 million. Okay, but in order, when they float those bonds, they want coverage of 125% of that number. So the 1.5 million that you cannot dip into, I know it's going to be challenging, but you can't dip into that. So, and you're almost at the max on the 1.5 that you can dip into. Does that make sense?
Right.
Not for me.
Rick, you know where we're at? I mean, guesstimation?
Yeah, when you get done here, I'm going to come back up and I'm going to tell you where you're at.
Well, why would we, wait. I'm kind of lost. Why would we know the figure now before you do that?
You haven't taken action yet. I don't know what you're going to do.
You can't tell us what I mean, now what
The
we, I
balance is now?
mean, what we,
The,
how much do we have in there now to work with? We're taking this vote, but how much is in there to work with?
in where? The public safety
In the
fund?
public safety, yes.
Public safety fund, you're going to be within $100,000 of what you can spend.
So what do we do if we have an emergency?
You're on the council, I'm not.
That's a good one. That's right.
What are we gonna do?
Well, that's what the rainy day fund's for. That's exactly what the rainy day fund
Well,
is.
I-
It's for emergencies, so.
I think part of this discussion, and, you know, we had one round where the public safety offices put together a package, we worked through that. Now we're continuing to get requests from public safety. At a certain point,
Right.
Right.
that money's gone for the year.
Right.
So while I believe what Rick is saying is it's not gone yet, but it's pretty close.
Right.
But what we have to keep in mind is that the general fund is in a very similar situation. I mean, we're continuing to get asked month and month and month for new appropriations. We have to be a little bit conservative to hold back some because, you know, we talked last month, I believe, fuel for the sheriff's department. You know, fuel's getting very expensive. There are other costs associated with inflation, and while we do have the rainy day fund, it sure would be nice to continue to grow that to the 15% goal, 15% of the general fund, and not have to dip into that. Emergencies, rainy day fund is there, but over appropriation leading up to the end of the year, that's not really an emergency, that's us over appropriating. So,
And the only thing on that, Councilman Gale, is, and I hear, and I agree with you on that, I don't like getting in that rainy day fund, and I know Councilman Emery just said that, and the only thing is, we raise people's taxes, what are they seeing out of it?
well, they're seeing new prosecutors and another officer, they're seeing a lot of the things that those who are leading the public safety departments requested. Now, specific to this request, my concern here, you know, as I'm weighing how much more do we appropriate, we're not quite halfway through the year yet. I also look at this specific position, I think of the potential financial liability for not having this type of training. And, you know, I personally, I would be just as concerned, if not more concerned, with us not having people in these facilities trained appropriately, something bad
Costs us more
happening,
money.
and that costing the county a whole lot more money than what
I agree.
this request for appropriation is.
So would it be better maybe take it out of, what, where are we at in the
We
general?
can reappropriate it come budget time, too.
Right.
For next
Well, I'm
year's
worried about
budget, we
this
can
year in public
rebalance.
safety, to try to lead the
Well, like I say,
rainy day
Yeah,
fund along
we
with.
still have options if something comes before us.
we're getting
address that.
close, we're getting close on both funds. Now, what I would suggest is this falls within what we can use public safety money for. So if there is an emergency, perhaps it's better to have a little bit more of a surplus in the general fund that could be utilized for anything.
Anything.
But again, that, you know, after, you know, moving forward past this month, I think that we're going to definitely have to start really just accepting the fact that we're
But definitely don't want to
pretty
be
well
back here
appropriated.
raising taxes again.
So, okay, is there any further discussion? We do have a motion to take this out of Public Safety Fund. We do have a second. We did have an opportunity for the public to speak. So if there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, that passes.
I
Thank you.
oppose. I oppose.
Okay, we had one
Yeah.
who opposed.
Thank you, Council.
No problem. Okay, now we move on to, we have 4 requests for new money out of the general fund tonight. Let me get,
Can I ask a quick question before we start?
yes, sir.
Rick, where's our safety on this general fund? Because I want to listen to you. You keep saying every month, but where are we at where we shouldn't go over?
We said in the beginning, we were going to forecast at 9.2 million, and we target 9 to 9.5. So we roughly
So-
got 200,000.
200 or 300.
About a 200,000 to go.
We got
Write it
200,000.
down when he.
And it's May?
Yeah. Okay, first is the prosecutor's office, the witness reporting fees.
Clarification, first of May.
Good evening, Council. Andrew Hanna, Chief Deputy Prosecutor. We're requesting an additional $10,000 into our witness reporting fees line item. That line item, excuse me, pays for expert witness fees. It also pays for anytime we have video, audio interviews, stuff like that, that we need transcribed to be able to prepare and try cases. Councilman Gale had mentioned we're kind of coming out of the COVID phase. That's exactly right. Where budgetary line items are different than they have been in 2021 and 2020. In 2021, we were at $7,000 in this line item. As part of our budget proposal, we asked for $10,000 instead of $7,000, so a $3,000 increase, being a little conservative. We didn't even start doing trials this year until March, but in the past 2 years, I think in 2020 we did maybe 12 or 14 trials, jury trials. lots of bench trials, but there's jury trials are what cost us money. And in 2021, we did 20, and I think we're at 18 or so already in 2022. And we're going to be off to the races, really, in how many jury trials that we have to see this year, because there is a huge backlog of cases. So that's where we're sitting at right now. We're almost out of money in that line item, but we can't really control if a pathologist is hired to conduct an autopsy. We have to pay that pathologist to come and testify in our trial, in a murder trial, or when there are expert witnesses that we use to testify to one thing or another. We have to pay those people to do that, and we also have to get things transcribed. The best that we can do, and we're very try our best to do it, is to order transcripts earlier than later, because they cost less money the earlier that you order them. But this is just a line item that's very unpredictable as to how much money we'll need, and that's what we're looking at so far.
Mr. Hannah?
Yes.
Is this going to be enough? Are you going to be back here again?
It depends. We actually had a big chunk of this ate up by, we've had 2 hung juries. And when a hung jury occurs, meaning the jury isn't able to come to a conclusion. So if we need to retry the case, we have to pay for a lot of all those transcripts, all those things that happened in that first trial. We've had 2 hung juries that have been intended to be retried this year. So that's where a lot of money has been ate up.
So maybe we should increase next year's budget, this line item. Would that be a smart thing to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this is something that will ebb and flow over time. And I think it's really hard we can come in and ask for $100,000 in this line item every year, but it ebbs and flows up and down. So,
And with the backlog of cases due to COVID, I'm wondering if the ARPA funding process can be a partial remedy here.
Absolutely.
But obviously, there's a timeline for that process. Are you to a point where you simply can't do a jury trial?
We're very close.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the things have been ordered, the bills are coming in, you don't get the bill up front, depending on the transcripts and stuff like that, or who's going to be needed and what their particular rates are. Pathologists vary, stuff like that. So we're at a point where we maybe have $1,200 to $1,500 left in this line item. But we fully, so if I can address just momentarily, there was a public defender that was granted as part of the ARPA money. There was a joint proposal that the prosecutor's office, the public defender, the courts, and the sheriff's department asked for out of ARPA to help address take a collaborative approach. Where does money need to be infused into the system to help address the backlog of cases throughout our judicial system? One would be adding an additional prosecutor. They already added the additional public defender. My understanding is the only reason that they acted on the public defender component of that is that that's a contract employee as opposed to being a full-time employee of the county, which a court reporter would be, a public or a prosecutor would be, and then also asking for additional overtime monies for the sheriff's department, for the courts. We don't have to pay our prosecutors overtime or public defenders overtime. It's a salary. So every time the court, there are unintended consequences and downstream effects of these things. Like, for instance, every time the courts run late, not only is there court reporters that are here later that get paid hourly, so they have to get paid more. There are sheriff's department deputies that have to be here to secure the building while courts are going on. You have to pay those people. So we've tried to take those things into account in this joint ARPA proposal that we put in front of them last time. We'll put it again in front of them in July. But, we've tried to work together. I think we work together very well as a criminal justice system to try to address these financial issues. Certainly, these line items for both the public defenders and the prosecutor's office. In fact, one of the retrials, instead of So whoever orders the transcripts first usually bears the cost of those, and then the other side gets to pay a lesser rate just for copies of the transcripts. And myself and the Chief Public Defender, Brian Williams, pretty good at working, okay, you order these, we'll order these, try to work our budgets side by side to get the best result.
I agree with Councilman Gale, and I don't know, Mr. Hanna, that you can, I think the next round, Councilman Gale, is what, June for the ARPA?
I believe June.
Do you mind maybe applying for those so we can kind of stabilize this? Because we're only in May.
Oh, no, absolutely.
And see what you maybe, even though that maybe you request a little bit higher, but that way, and then maybe give some back into Harper, whatever, if you don't use all of it, but that way we're not getting tight at the end of the year on the budget. Obviously, you heard, I mean, if you can do that, I'd
absolutely,
be very grateful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, with ARPA being an approach, though, you have to get from May through the process, the ARPA process. And I'm trying to remember, I haven't looked at the schedule for the ARPA process recently, but I believe there was a meeting in June, then it would have to go to a commissioners meeting, then it would have to go to a council meeting. So most likely, and if anybody here remembers that schedule, that would likely be the July council meeting, I believe, that we would do the final act to appropriate. So really, the prosecutor's office has to be able to have trials until at least mid-July before they will know whether they get ARPA funds to do this.
Right.
So,
So you
one
wouldn't
approach
hurt for
the
him to
council
apply.
could do, if we would choose, would be to appropriate a smaller amount, perhaps not the whole 10,000 tonight, see what happens with the ARPA funding, knowing that worst-case scenario for the prosecutor's office, that means Mr. Hanna has to come back and visit us again.
I love being here.
Another question, what's the average that you spend on just say a murder trial? Just to throw it out there.
Well, it depends. So that we pay for,
Just don't know how many witnesses and testimony.
yeah, this is just one of our line items. So we have another line item that pays if we get transcripts made by the court reporters in the actual court. So if there are depositions, stuff like that, we pay for those out of a separate line item than this. This is we outsource some of this stuff to because there's too many transcripts and stuff being ordered just for the court reporters to do all that. I would say somewhere between, to try to give you a direct answer to your question, I would say somewhere between 3 to 10,000. It really depends on the number of witnesses, number of transcripts. We have to pay, we're entitled to pay people mileage to be there, all kinds of stuff.
So how many months do you think $10,000 would carry you? Are we talking a month? Are we talking 2 months?
No. Well, okay, so when I said that number, that comes out of a variety of places in our budget. It's not just comes out of this line. Like, this wouldn't pay for just one jury trial. There are
Right.
certain things that cost more. And I would say that maybe 6,000 would be a good number to a healthy number to get us through July or August, depending on where. I'm hopeful that there's an ARPA committee meeting, and I'm hopeful, but
So 6,000,
we'll see.
do you think?
I think that would be a
Get you
pretty
there? Okay.
comfortable number to get us through when we anticipate that ARPA meeting and so forth being.
Okay.
So you got to make a motion to amend
I have a
report of
question.
public comment.
Question.
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
You have a professional service line item? You guys have a line item for professional service?
We do.
Yeah.
Not in our general fund, but we do we have lots of different budgets. So there's
Yeah,
professional services out of
They do.
different, I'm not sure if we have one out of the general fund, but we do out of some other of our other budgets.
You guys have quite a few different little funds in your department too, don't you?
What do you mean by discretionary funds that you're talking
Have
about?
quite a few funds in there? Or just one or two?
We have
How many?
three.
Three?
We have three discretionary funds.
And they
One
would
of
get-
those is entirely limited to, one is entirely limited to 4D expenditures, which are child support. So it has to be causally
Right.
connected to child
Okay.
support. So scratch that one off.
Okay.
One would be our diversion money, which has certain permissible expenditures that are able to be made out of that.
Right.
Mr. Gardner and I met we're dealing with some things in our discretionary or in our diversion account, And then our other one would be the civil forfeiture account.
So how much you asking for today?
Well, I was asking for 10, now we're asking for 6.
Can't find 6,000 in them funds?
We have a lot of things that we also have to conduct out of those funds. Like, I think we only have maybe 3,000 as we sit here right now out of our civil forfeiture account. Maybe 20-some thousand in our diversion account. Certainly, as we move forward, there are a number of other expenses that have to come out of our discretionary accounts, as opposed to coming back here and asking for. By the way, these are really shallow appropriations to a county. You have to pay for these things. It's not things that get pushed out. We have to, one thing is, it's the law that we cannot make any budget request from this council considering our discretionary funds. We can't say, well, we're going to pay for this stuff out of our discretionary funds, so let's not ask the council for that. The law says we're not supposed to make any budgetary request considering our discretionary accounts because they fluctuate, right? They go up and down. You don't know, and you don't want prosecutors conducting civil forfeitures and so forth saying, I got to make 200 grand over there, or we're not going to make payroll. Those things are not good, right?
Well, I understand that, but you kind of add a little more variables need to be added. I'm just trying to find out, do you have enough money to cover? Could you find $6,000? That's all I want to know. If you can't, then we go ahead and take
I think it would be difficult. I think it's plausibly possible, but the number of things that have to come out of those discretionary accounts and whether they're even permissible expenditures out of that, I'm not sure.
Well, you don't know, I don't know.
Do we use any discretionary funds for salaries in the prosecutor's
Do
office?
we use any? Yes, we use out of our diversion account, yes. In our 8897, which is our child support money, yeah, which are permissible purposes for those.
Just trying to figure out how to get it balanced out where we're not, it sounds like this is, I guess it puts us in danger if you lose funds during like the COVID, then you guys got in trouble on that, remember? Remember you guys were up here last year. So, I mean,
And some of that has been remedied now to a certain degree with some of the other public.
We're almost entirely salaries off of our discretionary accounts.
Right. So we're moving in the right direction there.
Yeah.
okay.
It was much heavier, it used to be.
Are
Let
there,
me say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
The point of it is that in the middle of a trial, you can't postpone the trial and come to us and ask for a transfer of funds.
That's
to
right.
Pay for these fees. So, I mean, the bottom line is, you got to have the money in order to pay the fees.
Mhm.
And so it's definitely a question we ought to vote for.
Okay. Well, let me open up for public discussion, public input.
Councilman Gale, do you have to make an amendment first, then open it up?
No, we'll have, and we'll make sure that you can state your name and where you're from, and then speak to the request made by the prosecutor's office.
So Catherine Callahan, Chief Deputy Coroner for Madison County, and this is not towards you, just so you understand. I've watched these meetings, and I'm watching today. And I watch how we're handing out pay raises. I watch how we're giving extra money for everybody's been hit by the COVID. Yet, the coroner's office has been hit. We need extra money for diesel fuel. It's taken out of our budget without our consent. We need extra vehicles for transport because that has increased, because I've almost doubled in my volume. I moved 6 bodies yesterday. And we're always consistently told
Mrs.
there's no money
Callahan,
for us. No,
yes.
there's no money.
Mrs. Callahan.
I'm laying the foundation. I'm laying the foundation.
Please stop.
Yes.
Right now, we're here to discuss the prosecutor's request.
Yes.
We are not here to discuss the coroner's office.
Yes, I'm just laying the foundation.
You're
That you
pushing your
consistently
agenda.
say yes to everybody, but you consistently say no to the coroner's office.
And perhaps there's a reason for that.
Yes,
Thank you very
a
much.
political agenda. Yes.
Councilman Gale, point of order.
What is your point of order?
Never mind.
Okay.
Didn't think so.
Is there someone else?
Jody Norick. I got a question for the prosecutor's office. So how much was in that fund originally when you started the year?
10,000.
10,000? And then, so you're asking for another 10,000. What was in that budget before COVID, do you know?
It was 7,000.
Initially before COVID? And so you're saying you're doing more jury trials or more trials now than you were before COVID?
We're doing more that require more transcripts and expenditures like, we don't dictate how much a pathologist is charging us, for example.
And so you're asking for an additional 10,000, but you kind of implied to the council that would last you through like July?
No, what I asked for 10,000, which we think will get us through the end of the year. They asked if we could
Okay.
take a reduced number until when we believe that there's an ARPA meeting going to take place in July or so, something like that. So I thought a healthy number would be 6,000 to get us.
Okay, so the 10,000 was through the rest of the year then? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else from the public? All right, now would there be a motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve for $6,000.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Emery to approve a $6,000 appropriation.
I'll second.
We had competing seconds. I'll say Councilman Steele made the second. Is there any discussion?
Councilman Gale, if we can look into, I mean, and obviously he's going to try on the HARPA funds. And then if, Mr. Hanna, if you can get something that, and I understand this is tough, but if we can just get something that, because I don't want you to be without doing trials, but I would feel better if we can get to the end of the year what you think you, and kind of coordinate that with the HARPA funds you can get.
Happy to do that, Councilman.
And then this should last you, what, to July?
It should
And
absolutely.
you'll still know
but,
about
you
the funds by July in HARPA, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, hopefully.
okay.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
Okay. That passes. Next, this is a county council general fund request. Prior to the 2022 budget year, there was never money budgeted for sick pay buyout. So when a county employee retires, if they have had sick pay accumulate over the years, we had to simply just make an appropriation out of the general fund. In 2020, when we were crafting the 2022 budget, we looked at previous year expenses and we appropriated $100,000 into that line. And based on the prior 3 years, that looked like it would have been enough to do so. And Rick, I'll have you speak to this, but early on this year, we had a couple of employees that retired with a very, very large amount, if I remember right, of sick time that was banked.
Yes, I don't remember the dollar amounts, but I think one of those employees had around 40 years. So they had banked probably the max on sick time, probably had comp time, vacation time, things like that. Like you said, we budgeted $100,000 at the first year. This $60,000 is a little bit more than's needed right now. I think it's about $40,000 that we know's coming.
Right.
So we have no idea when people will retire, so it makes sense to put a little bit more in there. It's not going to be spent for anything other than payouts at retirement, so it would
Left in
roll.
there, it reverts back to general at
That's
the
right.
end of the year.
And based on county policy, these employees currently are entitled, so it has to be paid. So we have made the commissioners aware that this continues to be a strain, even though we tried to budget for it with an abnormal amount being of retirement this year. It still is straining us some, so.
You heard one of them figures up to about 38,000. $38,000. That might be in it.
One of them was pretty big, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, that's
Could I add just something to that? If you think about it, these employees that have been here that many years and bank their sick time, they can't get all of it, but they can get the max on it. But just to be fair, an employee who does have that much money means that they've been coming to work and not burning it every month. There's some of those too. So they're entitled to this.
Right, right.
no
Make a
brainer.
motion.
First, let's go to any public
what meeting?
comment regarding this specific new money request.
Really?
Seeing that no one's rushing forward.
I make a motion that we accept the request.
Okay. We have a motion to
Second.
approve by Councilman Reese, a second by Councilman Vaughn. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next new money request comes from the Commissioner's Office. This is for the County Administrator, the $10,000 pay adjustment. Was there anyone from the Commissioner's Office to speak to this tonight? I know John Richwine said he may have been called out to something tonight. We were all emailed a little while ago, whether you've seen it or not.
I ain't see it.
A comparison between what the county administrator here makes and what other counties, comparable counties make. Right now, with the current salary, he would be very much towards the bottom. This pay increase would get slightly up, but he'd still be way below the top, so somewhere in the middle.
That's an unfair, that's a misleading document because you don't know how many years that particular person had in serving that position. They could have 30, 40, 50 years making the kind of money they make. This is a new hiree. Now, if Dan Dykes was standing here today, if this commissioner came here with Dan Dykes today and asked for $10,000, no way in the world this council would approve that because it's after the fact for one thing. So that is misleading. That information should not be used because you don't know how many years these people been employed.
That information came from the director of HR.
I know where it came from, but I'm saying they might have been there for several years in that position, okay? Generally, you kind of award people for the time they spend in that position. So we don't know how long that figure you're throwing out, that particular person was working in that position. And you asking for this guy to walk in the first day and get this kind of money. And I'm hearing a lot of talk. He's learning. And if Dan Dykes, who had the information, he's taking Dan Dykes' position. If Dan Dykes was sitting there right there today and the commissioner's in here trying to get $10,000, you would not approve it. So how did he get $10,000 addition? I don't understand it. And plus, it shouldn't be coming up anyway. It should not be coming up again. I'd like to know what is the new information to change it so we here addressing this again. What is the new information? You said there's new information. What is the new information?
Someone change their vote.
The new information was
Sent in November. It was sent in November, and everybody got a copy.
Right.
Wait, what is the new information that's brought?
At the previous meeting where this was discussed, there was requests for information on how the salary compares to other counties, and that's the new information that was provided.
Every time somebody, listen, man, I've been here 8 years. Every time somebody come up here, they justify their reason for increases because that's the first thing they use. So why you bring it up again? It doesn't change from the first time. It doesn't change. It's based on, we had a guy to come in and take over a guy's place who retired. He's retired. And first of all, he's working in a department where everybody's part-time. I'd like to see what constitute, as far as the additional work that the commissioners have, that they need another person. Because we do have proof. We do have a situation a year or two ago where the president of the commissioner ran the department by herself. And we got 3 people in there plus another guy. It's 4 people making $40,000, $50,000. And we got some people around here coming to me asking, hey, man, I've been here 20, 30 years, and I'm just at $14 or something. These people are coming to us. I don't know where they're coming to you, but they're coming to me. We have to act with some sense sometimes, common sense. This is not right. What in the world happened to change? Come in March, you requested, it got turned down. You didn't bring it up in April. Was that what it was, elections in April? Or May? So you got May, now it comes up again. This looks mighty strange. I'm telling you, if you do this, this is going to open up a can of worms that could really harm this council. I'm really adamant about this because you guys ain't been here long enough to know. This could really open up a can of worms for councils ahead of us that you can come back up in next day or two and ask for another revote. I'm pretty sure there comes some information that constitutes that. But that what you just shared with me, Mr. President, that doesn't constitute even being on the agenda.
That was information that was requested by other members of council.
You allowed this to be on the agenda, correct?
I did not take it off.
Did you approve that?
Well, I don't approve the agenda, we approve the agenda.
No.
No, we take a vote to approve the
No.
agenda. The requests for the agenda go through the auditor's
Process, the
office.
protocol being that you approve these
No,
before they come to the council.
I do not make an approval. I simply
Okay.
am presented with the
who put this on?
information.
Okay, who put
No,
this on here? Who put this
The
on here?
auditor's office puts that on there.
So you're saying they can put things on there without your approval?
They put things on there, I typically review it to make sure
Okay.
there's nothing.
Then when
that-
you reviewed it, then you see that was on there.
I review it to make sure there's nothing that would need to be gone through by our attorney first. I review it to make sure that there's nothing that's forgotten.
Mr. President.
But we have a process in the county where the auditor's office functions as the council's secretary. They're the ones that create the agenda. The council, by vote, approves the agenda.
Mr. President, I'm trying to find out who was the one to say, hey, we voted on this last month, and we're going to do it again. Who was the one that okayed that? That's what I'm trying to find out. Who was the one that approved to put that on the agenda again?
Well, the council, just a little while ago, voted to approve that being on the agenda again. Had the council voted not to approve this agenda or to
There's a lot of things
make
that come-
changes to the agenda, then that would have been the case.
There's a lot of things that come that's not on this agenda that comes up in previous agendas. There's a lot of things that people not even put on the agenda.
Okay.
They can't
Well,
get on there.
As a point of order, right now, we are having discussion without a motion even being on the floor. We haven't opened up for public discussion.
Councilman Gale,
And-
I do want to make a comment if I may. To be fair, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but, I mean, I requested to submit information on the jail thing, and you just took me off. Because the
I had
auditor
convers-
said you did.
I had conversation with you as to why we were not going to hear that at that point. And that is because I ran that by the council attorney, and the council attorney advised against it.
Against
So-
me
and
submitting
again,
information?
Against the topic that you were wanting to discuss at that
Is
meeting.
this legal? Is this legal what we're doing?
You're not following Robert's Rules of Order. There's
Right,
motion on it.
right.
But having it on the agenda is legal. You can vote.
I mean, to vote
Right.
it again, is it legal to vote it again?
It is legal to vote.
Right. So what we would need to do to get back in line with our processes here is we would need to, since there's not someone here to present to ask clarifying questions to,
And-
we
and
would
I
then
don't-
move towards public comment, at which point then we could have a motion and have discussion amongst the council. So.
One last comment, one last comment.
Councilman Reese, let's go ahead with the process, be consistent. Let's open for public
Stop doing
comment.
anything. We don't have department heads here. I've stopped hearing we don't have department heads.
Catherine Callahan. So, was it correct that they have to have a bachelor's degree in order to hold this
Yes.
role?
Yes,
And they do not?
yes.
So, kind of like in the coroner's office, you have to be certified to do your job, or you can't do that job. So we're going to give somebody a raise who doesn't even meet the qualifications?
I don't
It
know
does.
the
I read it.
qualification of that.
I'm pretty
You take
sure
my
it
word
says
for
that
it.
you have to have a bachelor's degree in order to hold that role. So I'm not sure why you're giving out this money when, on the coroner's roll, you've got to be certified. We don't get any raises at all. We work 7 days a week.
To
We
be-
answer the phone 24 hours a day, and you guys are going to give a $10,000 raise to somebody who works part-time?
To be fair,
Maybe
you
even
you did receive the same 3% raise all their other county
he did
employees.
too. He
At
did too.
$9.45 an hour is
He
what
did
we
too.
make in the coroner's
Okay,
office.
again,
This person
yeah, the
makes more
coroner-
money than the coroner makes,
The coroner went
and doesn't even have a bachelor's degree,
from
and our
28 to
coroner
40
holds a medical
10,000?
doctorate.
Yeah. Okay.
I hold a
Again,
doctorate, and I make $20,000 a year.
This conversation is not about the coroner's office.
No, but it needs to be about the entire county, and you need to quit segregating and saying one department is more valuable than the other, and you need to get a lot fairer on the playing field.
Here, here,
Is there anyone else from the public?
here, here.
He was requesting 42.
Christy Grabowski. I don't know what other information you need about me. I've not been to council meetings for a little bit, so I'm just trying to get caught back up on what's going on. So my question, I guess, would be, first of all, is this a new position or a new hire to this position?
This is an employee that worked as the department head of another department. When somebody retired that was in this position, this is a position that's been part of the county budget for quite some time.
Okay.
This person then was hired to fill this role, vacating their previous county role.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, did they take this position knowing what the salary was at the time?
They did. Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was my first question. And then my second, I guess, just observation, is that no one's here to defend this. So it almost seems like maybe they should wait till they're here, because if they don't feel strongly enough about it to show up, then maybe we should wait.
Thank you.
That's all I
Okay,
had. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
I do have a question.
Yes.
My question is to the Personnel Committee. So, was this position advertised that you had to have a bachelor's degree?
Yes.
I don't recall, I don't have the doc.
I don't recall.
Ken, I saw the requirements in the HR department, Miss Lieutenant Ramsey's office. I asked for it, and it does say you need a bachelor's, it does ask for a bachelor's degree.
So I guess somebody needs to find out, one, is that a requirement? And two is, why was the person hired if they don't meet the qualifications? Right.
And this could be legal. could
Well,
there be legal
and
requirement?
I guess the question is, if it's on a job description of things you'd like an employee to have, that's different than a actual policy that states that. I mean, we oftentimes will list desired qualifications on job descriptions, and then you select who you think is the right one, whether they check every box or not. So I guess that's where the real question is. Is it just something on a job posting, or is it something where there was actually a policy in place?
This is simple.
Mr. President, in many cases, again, I can't speak to this, I don't recall. I just know that from many of our job postings, it does have the language, and I can't speak to this one specifically, but it states bachelor's degree or related work experience.
Right. It did say that too.
Okay, so
It
that
did-
would.
Right. But guess
If he had the
what?
related work experience.
Guess what? He doesn't have related work experience to that, because
Well,
I'm hearing.
I think he does. He was worked as a department head in the county
Okay,
over
you know what?
emergency
You know what?
management. He
You
has
know what?
also
You know
worked
what?
as an
It
engineer
doesn't
in
make
the
any
construction
difference.
field.
It doesn't make any difference.
Yeah,
It doesn't make any difference.
Councilwoman
Because it's
Likens-
a question even why even being here brought up again. So it's obviously something happened in 2 months, within a month, other than someone come to you and say, well, we found in other counties that this person make a difference.
Okay.
That it's something, it got to be something
So
more than that,
at
man.
this
You can't do
point-
that.
At this point,
Can't do
getting
that.
back to rules of order, we still don't have a motion on the table.
Let's
yet.
do discussion.
We're right,
still
but
in
we should
public
be
comment.
we should be discussing the motion, not
Are we-
having a random discussion.
Are we done public
So-
comment yet?
Yes.
I just
We
have
are.
one more question.
Did we close that?
So you're
Yeah.
supposed to come to the Personnel Committee. Everybody knew Mr. Dykes was retiring. Why didn't they ask for this in the budget in the beginning? The coroner's office asked for raises. They were denied.
Okay.
They've come back and asked for the raises, and they're still denied. So why is it that we have different rules
The coroner,
for
you're
different
speaking for the
offices?
coroner's office.
No,
The coroner's
I'm
office.
speaking
Excuse
for
me,
you.
excuse me.
No, you haven't let me finish.
No, I'm not going to let you finish because the coroner did not request to be on the agenda for tonight's
Not
meeting.
asking to be. I'm speaking
You-
on behalf of a public person. I live in this
You're
county.
speaking on behalf of the coroner's office because all of your conversation is about the coroner's
No,
office.
if you come to these meetings, you hear that the coroner's office doesn't get approved for those things. So the public
Actually-
knows that.
Actually, the coroner's office got approved for more than double, to more than double their budget last year.
Really?
Yeah, yes.
Because I had to pay how much of late fees from everything else?
We co-
That was from the
we
previous
covered that
coroner?
and a whole lot
How
more.
much?
Gail, point
And
of
how
order.
much have I,
Thank
how
you
much
very
have I
much. Have
gone
a seat.
over? We've doubled in
Very
size?
much. Have a seat.
So if you have to go in front of the
Thank you
Personnel
very much.
Committee,
Have a
if you
seat.
have to go in front of the Personnel Committee, why don't you have to do that?
Help her find her seat, please.
Sure.
Are we in discussion now among the council?
We are,
Gotta wait till motion.
I would welcome a motion, one way or another, so that we could get back to
But
the
can we
report.
still talk amongst the council?
Yeah,
Could
once
you
you do
close
it.
the
Once there
public
is a
meeting?
motion.
I make a motion that we,
Well, can,
I'm making a motion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let Councilman Reese make
Yeah.
his motion. He's-
I'm making a motion that we do not accept this request.
second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to not accept this.
now we
Any
can discuss.
discussion?
I can tell you this, that if you had 500 taxpayers out here right now, they wouldn't like this. And it'd be a different vote, and that's all I'm saying. If the taxpayers saw what was going on, they'd be very upset. And it's not right to, you told, and I want to be fair to everybody, Councilman Gale. We told Olivia not to have raises and told him to take it back. And this guy's making more than them ladies in there.
part-time.
Gals and guys, I bet, in the clerk's office. Again, I'm not against it. It needs to be done at budget time. It's responsible for the taxpayers. And we're doing, I feel like this is because the commissioners wants it. It's okay. And it's not okay. And I guarantee you line up them taxpayers, they'd be upset.
Well, can I make a comment? My comment is that they all part-time.
The county administrator is not part-time.
Wait a minute. Somebody lying there, because I just the last month they said they were part-time.
The commissioners are considered part-time. The county administrator is a full-time position. The county administrator does the day-to-day.
He's part of a part-time team. What I'm saying, he's part of you giving them more people to be more part-time. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, you're giving them a guy.
We're not giving him more people.
You're giving them a guy.
The position has existed.
You're giving them a position. No, they did their position without this guy before. It's been proven. So you can't work that way. You're giving them a guy where these three people sit part-time. 3 people sits part-time, make over $40,000, and we're going to give you another guy to help you stay part-time. That doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And then this guy he doesn't have a bachelor's degree. This is his first year on the job. I'm hearing a lot of complaints from different people in the county about what he doesn't know. So you got to have a learning curve. There is a learning curve. There's a learning curve. So, but give him $10,000 to go through the learning curve?
To be fair, I've heard a lot of positive things about the job that he's doing. And I've also reviewed his
He's a good guy.
work
First of all, let me say,
experience,
he's a good
and
guy. Let me say, I've worked with him before. He's a good guy. I have nothing against him. He's been forest counsel for many times, and trusted what he had to bring information he brought for us. This has nothing to do with his goodness, how kind he is, how sweet he is. It's just looking at this doesn't smell good, Mr. It doesn't smell right. It doesn't smell right. Now, listen, I'm telling you, you opening up I don't know where you guys are coming from, but you can't do that. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this.
We have looked at other positions throughout this year in the creation of last year's budget, in public safety, and when funding has been available to correct pay for positions that was not comparable to what other county employees would make in those positions, or what's not, does not allow the county to be, marketable in attracting people. And so we have worked to try to remedy some of that. County employees went for nearly 10 years with little to no raise.
Okay.
Including this position. This position is one that, from what I have witnessed, requires a lot of work, a lot of energy, and takes somebody that's competent to do. So part of this, too, is just thinking bigger picture about the future of the county and the workforce here. We want to be able to attract good people. We want to be able to maintain and retain good people in these positions. So we can't lose sight of that. It's
Councilman Gale, was this position brought to you in December? Was there promises made that he was going to get more money or not? Because that's what leaked out to me.
There were never any promises.
Did he take it, I mean, that was asked last in March. He was knowing that they were going to give him this $10,000 raise taking this job.
He could not have known that because the council would have to approve that.
You can still talk about and promise things behind closed doors. I'm not naming no name. I'm just saying, I heard he knew they were going to give him.
Nobody has told him that. None of us. I haven't.
I haven't.
Oh, what?
And I think you. Excuse me. Please don't interrupt.
Again.
I'm just trying to be. How if he knew if he wasn't going to get a raise, why decide this $10,000 raise all of a sudden?
Right.
But we got some higher on that paper you showed me earlier on your phone, and some lower. You got some Muncie makes $2,000 less than our current administrator. I called Muncie, or Delaware County.
Muncie.
Delaware County.
Kosciuszko County, 94,349. Hendricks County, 109,967. Morgan County, 100,776. Grant County, 55,000. Shelby County, 57,363. And then we have LaPorte County at 42,277. And Switzerland is at 41,000. This is what was sent to us all from our HR director. And so her analysis is what I'm.
And I will
going
say
on.
this, I took it off that DLG website where you can go and look for salaries. Them ain't always right calling the counties and getting the real thing. Sometimes there are discrepancies, I will say that, because I looked on there, then the Delaware County called, they had it was different. I think Bolton County was different, Carroll County was different, so that's not always accurate, what the DLGF reporting on that, where you go on there, Gateway. I guess you say Gateway to every county, you can go on to look at salaries.
That's for Beatrice.
Yeah.
Huh?
I would trust that she did her research.
Well, it's not DLGF, it's Gateway.
I trust that too, but it just, the ink is still wet on Mr. Dykes leaving here. I mean, he just left here with making that amount of money, and you give this guy a $10,000 bump.
Mr. Dykes told me that because of his status as being retired, having a pension, he was willing to do this job for far less than it was worth. He told me when he called me to tell me that he was going to retire, told me that we would probably need to consider a pay increase for the position to attract or retain anyone that had qualifications. So.
And so what is that supposed to mean? Mr. Dykes saying it. And he walked out of here getting paid that certain amount of money.
Well,
he never hollered that before he left. He never said anything before he left, Mr.
It's him giving me a gauge of what that job requires, the responsibility, the stress levels, and the type of compensation, he referenced other county administrators and what they.
I think he would know that. I would give him, because he's been through that job for, how many years did he work? Probably 20 years or so. He probably would know that. But he had the experience at that point. And if he stayed here beyond here again, if he was right here, standing right there asking for $10,000, I guarantee you he wouldn't have got it. I guarantee you he wouldn't have got $10,000.
Councilman Gale, I'm the only thing
One second, Councilman Alexander.
I know a little bit about Tom's experience and what we're about to face. And Tom has a engineering construction background, certified in that area. And we're about to build a jail. Found out what it was like to remodel this building without a person in that office that didn't know anything about construction. We were over $1 million in the cost of this building renovation because we didn't have a person that understood the engineering and the construction process. If we don't have a person in that position that has an understanding of that, we could very well be, it could be $80 million. It could be $50 million for a jail. So honestly, I think that's what we need. Tom's what we need. He's doing a good job. I worked with him when we had the tornadoes in Pendleton a few years ago. He did an excellent job. So I don't doubt his ability one bit.
Isn't that what they hired Jack Krause for?
No.
No. That was when Terry Burns worked with part of that deal, wasn't he?
No.
We hired him to guide engineers and the designers.
We hired a group of
So
people.
how's he going to be involved in building a jail here?
Because the commissioner's office oversees that project, and therefore having somebody in their office that runs the day-to-day that has that experience would be beneficial.
Okay, let's
Now, we have a motion and a second to not
fund this.
Roll call vote.
So we can take this vote. Councilman Vaughn has requested a roll call.
No.
Councilman Reese?
We can.
Councilwoman
Is that
Lighton?
negating it?
This would mean that he doesn't get it if
Right,
this motion passes.
So are we saying?
I'm saying not to give him.
If this, yeah.
Negated, I vote for yourself.
To clarify, if you vote yes, then you would be voting for this motion. If the motion passes, then he would not get the raise. If it's a no vote and does not pass, then he would still not get the raise, but he would not be awarded the money. We would have to either leave it there or another motion.
Okay. So I want the one where he doesn't get the money.
Okay. So you would want to vote yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Councilwoman Likens?
No.
Councilman Alexander?
No.
Councilman Steele?
No.
Councilman Emery?
No.
Councilman Vaughn,
Yes.
President Gale.
No. Okay, so that motion has failed. Now, if there's another motion, we can entertain that. Otherwise, we would
I'll make the
move on.
motion that we approve the understanding that this $10,000 request is only really $5,000 because we're
Prorated.
a little
It would be
bit more than
prorated,
5,000
yeah.
Because we're prorating it. So I would make that motion only because we need a person in this position that has construction background.
Okay.
I don't see why
So
you
we have a
prorate.
motion to approve by Councilman Alexander. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emery. We do have a motion and a second. If there's any further discussion,
The only thing I'm going to say is, when all these people start complaining, and everybody voted yes, they're all coming to you, because I'm going to tell them I voted no.
okay,
I want to say that, it's mighty funny. It
Call for the
changed.
question.
It's funny,
Okay.
it changed in 2 months. That's what I want
Did
to
you
say.
have something?
Rick needed some clarification. Mhm. The motion is to approve, correct, Jerry?
Correct.
The request,
On a prorated
however,
basis.
At a
it would be
10,000
prorated.
annual increase.
Yeah.
But only, we won't use all that for the end of the year.
Okay, so the question has been called, right. All
Roll
in
call
favor?
vote.
Okay, Councilman Vaughn's asked for a roll call.
Wait a minute, what answer you got to give?
No.
No?
Well,
You
yeah,
you
you're
probably
no.
want to vote no because you
Thank
don't
you.
want him to get the raise. I'd be
Come on,
happy to
bro.
explain
you.
how to do your job.
Thank you. N-O, no.
Councilman Reese,
N-O, no.
Councilwoman Likens,
Yes.
Councilman Alexander,
Yes.
Councilman Steele,
Yes.
Councilman Emery,
Never seen this in my life.
Councilman Vaughn,
No for the taxpayers.
Seen this.
President
Never
Gale.
seen this.
Yes,
Never.
that motion passes. Next, we have the final new money request. Let me find it here.
Planning Commission.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of complaints. If you guys could please conduct yourself appropriately and not interrupt the meeting, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilman Gale, didn't we transfer money into this? Or the month
Okay,
before?
next on the agenda is the Planning Commission, new money request from the general fund.
Rachel couldn't be here tonight. I'm Stacy Hinton, the office coordinator. We are asking for additional funds for operating expenses. We are currently sitting at $469 left for the year to pay for gas with the increase of gas prices. I have budgeted or looked at, we could possibly get by with $2,000 for the rest of the year for gas. Last year, we spent about $3,100 in fuel costs for our county inspector to drive the county vehicle. This year, with the gas prices going up, it's
Yeah.
going to be more.
Might go more.
Yeah, so, and then the next one would be another $2,000 for repairs and maintenance. I heard you talking about, we did transfer money last month to cover expenses for the truck. It's not working right. Our county inspector uses it to run from end to end for inspections. And what they did not fix it. So we are now going to take it over to T&J Tire to try and fix it. The truck is 12 years old.
Yeah.
So we're trying to piece it together without asking for a new vehicle.
Could
So
we-
that's what our request is.
Okay.
I don't know what the rules are, but can you request, I mean, we got a lot of HARPA money. Can you apply for that for a new vehicle? Maybe take away some of these repairs?
No.
You can't do that? Okay. Just asking. I tried.
I'm learning, so
I'm
yeah.
learning. I tried.
Are there any clarifying questions?
We need a,
If not, then we would open up to public comment for this.
In October of 2020, the Planning Department was notified of multiple violations on a parcel in Madison County. The owner of this property is over 285 days past the deadlines, which were set to bring the parcel into compliance. The owner continues to disregard planning department deadlines. The owner's non-compliance.
I would
I have
suggest.
5 sentences, and it comes to an end.
Okay, but
The
please make
owner's
sure it's about
non-compliance
this request.
is so great that last month, Mr. Alexander, who's also on the Planning Commission, attempted to make a motion that the owner be taken to court. The prior planning director, Brad Newman, claimed this property would be fined for missed deadlines. The current director has made the same claims. To date, not a single fine has been issued. Now you're asking taxpayers to fund a department that has refused to hold this bad actor accountable and issue fines which would be paid for these supplies.
That's why you need it.
Yeah, that's a planning commission issue, not a council issue. So is there anyone else?
If they issued fines, they wouldn't need money from the council.
It's the commissioners.
Yeah. Is there anybody else? Okay, then now would be an appropriate time for a motion.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? The motion was by Councilman Emery.
Second.
Second by Councilman Steele. Is there any discussion? I would simply say that the gas increase, we all know, is a justifiable need for additional funding. That's something that other departments are going to incur this year.
Can I say something since you said that?
Yes.
And nothing against you, because you're sad you're going to be the one that had to deal with this, but really department heads, real quick, department heads should be in here doing this, but
Yeah.
anyway. So there was a statement made that really concerns me that they're not collecting fines that could help a lot of this stuff that we've got to pay, taxpayers got to pick up on the back end. So I'm just going to say somebody need to make communications. If this is going on, this needs to be dealt with. It sounds kind of, I'd like to hear more about it. I really do. It sounds kind of rugged that they won't fine person that's in violations.
I would imagine the Planning Commission does collect some fines.
Yeah.
Not on
Excuse me, please don't interrupt.
Yeah, let her speak.
I would expect that you would know how to conduct yourself appropriately in a public meeting. Go ahead.
violations, countywide violations, unless it goes to the courts, which is usually about a year time span from the time we issue a violation, we don't get anything from those violations. And my understanding is that it's in the rules, but it's not prohibited on some things.
Okay.
I'm still learning that part of it.
So you're saying
Are
fines
you
doesn't
new
come-
in there?
Yeah, this is my third year, and I'm like really getting into this
Been there
since
3
Brad
years.
left, so.
Right.
But, we have our fees for our permits, but we don't have the budget like several other departments in the courthouse has. Excuse me. Matter of fact, our budget just for the fuel has gone from $3,200 in 2020 to $1,500 this year. We just keep getting cut and cut and cut. But, last year we had over 500 permits that require at least 2 inspections. So, he could be starting with Springbrook out in Pendleton and have to go all the way up to Summitville.
Right.
So he's putting miles on the vehicle.
Right.
It would be ideal if we had, more fees to charge people for violations, but that goes to the courts. That's out of our hands.
Right.
Councilman,
Okay.
we're in public, aren't we? Okay. Are we in public or are we discussing?
There's a motion on the table where council
Okay.
discussion.
I will be fair, I did talk to some planning commission members, and this is something we can break the barriers of territorial functions, if we can reach out to them, because a couple of members I did talk to, they're not even aware of about anything on that. And if we can help them to get their money and they can get educated a little bit to fund that with fines, because I have heard not only complaints people here, but other people, if that can help fund that department and kind of reach out to them, because I've talked to a couple and they didn't even realize they was honest with me and said, I don't even understand we could do fines. So if we can just maybe reach out to some of the planning commission, that'd be nice to do. So there, it sounds like they're pretty straddled.
And Rachel's,
To be fair.
Rachel is working on trying to update our fee schedule as well, and trying to make some, additional changes to help generate more money into our department.
Right.
So,
Who's over them? The commissioners over them?
The commissioners are over the planning
That was
commission.
Newman, or not.
And then they
Newman,
have
sorry.
a director that,
yeah.
Well, I just
Now
kind of
it's-
strange that we're up here asking questions or trying to figure out, can fees be converted to fall into, for them? It's kind of strange we're asking those kind of questions.
yeah, it's not really under our umbrella.
No, it's not.
But now,
Is there any other discussion pertinent to the request for new money? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
The
No.
motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, on the agenda, it shows 4 salary ordinances, but if you'll remember, the public safety and general fund requests for MCCC, those were redundant, so we're going to do, yeah, that was included. So we really only have 3 salary ordinances since the motion that passed took that out of the public safety.
So 5F will not apply?
Correct, just making sure.
Well, they're showing transfers, Councilman. I guess I'm kind of, is this, look, transferring funds?
We're talking
No,
about
it's
salary
salary
ordinance.
ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So, let me get myself in order here. C, Salary Ordinance 2022-5C, an ordinance adjusting the salary of the employees for the year 2022. Be it ordained by the Madison County Council that the salary for county employees in Madison County, Indiana for year 2022 be adjusted in the following manner. Public Safety Fund -1170, Court Admin 0225, Court Employee Floating 37,334. This would be a first reading. As a reminder, it could pass with unanimous consent. If it does not pass unanimously, but does still pass, then it would move to a second reading at the next meeting. So would there be a motion?
I'm sorry, Dave, what's this for again?
This is for the salary ordinance, the adjustment of the salary ordinance for the floating court employee.
Recorder.
Yeah, the floating court.
Okay.
So moved on your motion.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion by Councilman Emery, a second by Councilman Vaughn. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? That passes unanimously on a first reading. Next is Salary Ordinance 2022-5D, an ordinance adjusting the salary of the employees for the year 2022. Be it ordained by Madison County Council that the salary for county employees in Madison County, Indiana for year 2022 be adjusted in the following manner. Public Safety Fund 1170, MCCC 9603. This is for the training coordinator, $26,800. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn. Is there a second? We have a second by Councilman Emery. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay. That one will move on to a second reading. Next, Salary Ordinance 2022-5E, an ordinance adjusting the salary of the employees for the year 2022, be it ordained by the Madison County Council that the salary for county employees in Madison County, Indiana for year 2022 be adjusted in the following manner. General Fund 1,000, Commissioners 0068, County Administrator with a salary of, annual salary of $59,884. Is there a motion to approve?
Roll call vote, or no? Do we
Is
have
there a motion to
for-
approve?
I make the motion.
Councilman Alexander moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Likens. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Vaughn has asked for a roll call vote.
Councilman Reese,
No, that's right. No. No.
Councilwoman Likens,
Yes.
Councilman Alexander,
Yes.
Councilman Steele,
Yes.
Councilman Emery,
Yes.
Councilman Vaughn,
No.
President Gale.
Yes, so that will move on to a second reading at next month's meeting. Are there any committee reports? Don't believe so. If that's the case, I would take a motion to adjourn. Oh, actually, Auditor Rick Gardner.
1 minute, they say it's approved. Is that included?
Is this included in here, this jail?
That was included in the
In the
transfers.
mass transfers, yeah.
Just wanted to share some numbers with you now based on your actions tonight. So you're looking at a general fund balance, barring anything out of the ordinary, of 9.1 million balance at the end of the year. That's $100,000 to be at the bare minimum that you should be at. In the public safety fund, you're looking at $120,000 that you would have available. Keep in mind, anything that you appropriate that is a wage-related item continues year after year after year. So what that means is, in public safety, you have $120,000 to deal with. Now, I don't know if the sheriff's still here or not. I talked to the sheriff a couple weeks ago, and we were concerned about fuel pricing. So fuel pricing, the sheriff's department has to be on the fly. They might be wherever in emergency situations. And they don't have the opportunity to go to the highway department to fuel. So they have to go to the same place we do, at $4.39 a gallon for fuel. So I figured this actually when it wasn't even at $4 yet, and the sheriff's department is going to need probably, well, in excess of $50,000 for fuel for the rest of the year. So that's a minimum. That's a minimum. It's probably $60,000 or $70,000 now that you've added another 40 cents on. So you got $120,000 to do with that, and then your ceiling, and same thing in the general fund. But there are some departments. I spoke to Stacy. I think she's already gone, but she gets hers at the highway department. But then she has to pay the highway department. Right. Now they get theirs at a lower rate. But there are some departments that don't buy their gas at the highway department that should be buying it at the highway department. And those are locked in at $3 a gallon gas, or $3.25 or whatever, not $4.50 or $4. I bought diesel fuel today, $5.34 a gallon. Highway department is having probably, I mean, I can't even imagine the savings by them locking into a contract, and people that can use that need to use that. But I just wanted
to general real quick.
I wanted to make you aware of that. So you're looking at 9.1 million and 120,000 to public safety. I'm sorry, 9.1 million, which gives you about $100,000. So we're in May going into June. So just keep that in mind. You can't go below that 9 million mark.
Right.
So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that being said, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Hey, Rick.
Second?
Second.
All right. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.